That is the headline from the New York Times. The woke leftists disguised as journalists over at the New York Times are seeing nothing less than a seismic shift, a massive tectonic shift that is about to shake Washington, D.C. to its core. That is what they are calling the incoming Trump administration. The term disruption, if you read the article, the term disruption, according to the Times, doesn't even come close to describing it. They're saying upheaval would be better. Actually, they would say more a full-blown revolution, which of course is what Elon Musk called it at Mar-a-Lago last week. Told everyone in attendance at the American First Institute's gathering that this was not going to be politics as usual. He assured them of that. This was going to be a revolution, which fit perfectly with Sylvester Stallone referring to Trump as our second George Washington. Everyone, even establishment liberals recognize that something utterly tectonic happened on November 5th. According to the New York Times, Donald J. Trump has embarked on a new campaign to, in their words, shatter the institutions of Washington as no incoming president ever has. And they recognize he is going to get his wish. According to the Times, Trump has rolled a giant grenade into the middle of the nation's capital and watched with mischievous glee to see who runs away and who throws themselves on it. And the article pointed out, given the character of those who occupy the swamp, most are running away. Now, the article, of course, is centering on Trump's cabinet appointments, which are a literal hall of horrors for the woke libs at the New York Times. And what they're absolutely panicked about is that it does look like Trump has figured out how to get virtually all of these cabinet picks installed, most especially Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Make no mistake. Gaetz is the one they're most worried about. Trey Gowdy, for whatever reason, is most worried about Matt Gaetz. And it's because he's the one that can start putting people in jail. But it's now being widely recognized that Trump basically has not one, but two ways of filling his cabinet. Some are calling it two tools in his toolkit. He can use what's called the recess appointment clause, which comes from Article 2, Section 2, Clause 3 of the United States Constitution, which gives the president the power to make temporary appointments to fill vacancies in the government when the Senate is not in session. That was part of the brilliant agreement that Senator John Thune accepted in order to keep Trump out of the senator majority leadership fight, as it were. Again, Trump is a brilliant deal maker. I mean, seriously, this is brilliant. It looks like what Trump did is he purposely behind the scenes pushed Rick Scott as Senate Majority Leader, which got huge momentum on social media among the MAGA faithful, including this channel. We were all in on Rick Scott. But again, it looks like Trump was playing 4D chess here, because by creating the Rick Scott threat from behind the scenes, he then forced Thune to agree that the Senate would indeed allow for President Trump to invoke the recess appointment clause were it necessary for him to do so. So Trump used the leverage he had with Scott, Senator Scott, to force this recess appointment concession from Thune. And he got it. And so this is why, again, I keep reminding all of us, you have to remember, this is not 2017 all over again. Back in 2017, the senatorial and congressional Republicans were literally laughing at Trump. I'm not kidding. Those were the reports. Republican leadership back in 2017, Mitch McConnell, they were laughing at Trump. They were mocking him. Paul Ryan, they were mocking him. They held all the power. Trump had no allies on Capitol Hill. He had just, think about it. He had just defeated 16 of the GOP's finest in that race. He defeated 16 of Capitol Hill's finest, and they frankly despised him for. Ted Cruz refused to endorse him at the Republican convention in the summer 2016. Trump literally had no friends coming into D.C. in January of 2017. None. Senatorial, congressional Republicans, they were telling him, hey, man, here's how the game is played, and you better learn the rules, because if you don't learn the rules, this place, the swamp turns into quicksand, and it will literally bury you. Now, 2024, it's Trump who's setting the rules. Make no mistake of that. That's exactly what the New York Times is saying. It's Trump who's calling the shots. And senatorial and congressional Republicans, you can be assured, are bending the knee big time. And that's exactly what we saw with this brilliant move to secure congressional support for recess appointments if necessary. That's why Representative Tom Massey, right after Matt Gaetz was nominated, it was last week, 2 weeks ago, Massey came out and told reporters, hey guys, recess appointments, baby. Recess appointments. Matt Gaetz is your attorney general. Suck it. It's literally what he said. But that's just one tool in his toolbox. The other tool he has for installing his cabinet nominees is what's called the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, or FVRA. And that allows for the president to install cabinet members temporarily. I believe it's up to about 250 days or so. And what's so interesting is I understand this now. Both tools entail their own timelines, their own temporality, as it were, for how long the appointments are valid for. But the president can combine them. He can combine them to, as it were, double the appointee's tenure. That's how it works, as I understand it, which is very interesting for sure. But I don't want to get lost in the weeds here. Bottom line, the New York Times recognizes that President Trump is very much in control of this confirmation process for his earth-shattering cabinet. And he is going to get what he wants. And so the New York Times is basically preparing their readers, or better, their dwindling readers, and the whole of the federal bureaucratic complex for what's to come. And they're frankly not sugarcoating it. That's what I'm impressed by. Normally, the New York Times they'll always spin it in such a way that gives the advantage to the left. And so they ain't sugarcoating this one. This was a fascinating article. Unfortunately, it's behind a paywall. If you know where to go to your paywall bypass, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But they're coming out and blatantly saying, guys, I'm sorry to tell you this. This is going to be Trump 2.0 is going to change Washington, D.C. like never before. And again, the Times article is very good here because after listing all of Trump's most awesome picks, right? Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Pete Hegseth, and of course, presenting them in the worst possible light imaginable, painting for us how the woke left sees them, which is basically the four horsemen of the apocalypse, of a left-wing apocalypse, whatever that would be. Nevertheless, the Times does turn around and does admit that were this any other period in history, 2000, right, 2012, 2016, 2020, any other period in recent political history, these nominations would never have stood a chance. They would be DOA. That's how some people like Trey Gowdy continue to treat them. But they're living in the past. Trey Gowdy never left 1991. Certainly his haircut never did. Not a single one of these nominees would have ever seen the light of day had it been any other period. The swamp simply would never have allowed it because it was too strong. It was too powerful. But now, after what you did on November 5th, now even the Times is being forced to admit, reluctantly, but even the Times is being forced to admit, precisely because of the way Trump has changed politics throughout the nation, and as I argue in my book, throughout the world, the Times is now admitting that those very confirmations that were unthinkable just a few short years ago are now virtually inevitable. Inevitable. That's what you are. You are inevitable. I love it. This is why I talked about this in my earlier video, but DOJ officials are now being told by their own lawyers to take a very long extended vacation from DC. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? In other words, get the hell out of here. You may want that vacation, I don't know, maybe last about 4 years. You may even want to flee the country. I'm going to show you. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. They're literally being called full-blown flight risks at this point. Jack Smith, anybody? And I actually show you a video of a lawyer for DOJ officials openly admitting that he's telling them they may want to relocate or just hang out an extended vacation for as long as you can.
Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you, Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having a, like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So good. Welcome back.
Gang, what you just saw there was both the president and the vice president eerily congratulating Trump and promising a peaceful transition of power. Well, that's something I'd like to believe, but it's hard to believe those words when they're coming from the mouths of pure serial liars. I mean, career liars. So what does that mean for the next few months? The opposite of what they're promising. So absolute chaos. Economically, culturally, politically. We might be in for war for all we know. So what should you do? You should at least own some gold. The markets might be up right now, but who knows what's going to happen between now and January. You need to protect yourself against the last hurrah of the worst administration America has ever had. We know it's coming. I don't know what, but something is between now and January 20th. You might think they're just going to hand over a pristine, happy, functioning country to the man they tried to assassinate and put in jail, entirely ruin. No, something's coming, and you need to be financially prepared for it. You need to talk to Goldco and protect yourself against this last battle. Get some gold in your portfolio. In the coming months, you'll be glad that you did. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code and just chat with them. You'll be glad that you did. I know it from your comments. I said we feel like we've crossed the threshold on November 5th, that there's no going back. Trump is calling it the golden age. What I want to convey for you here is that even woke liberals at the New York Times are feeling it, but they're not the euphoria that we're feeling. They are openly admitting Trump is going to get what he wants. This is not 2016 again. And they are preparing their readers for a tectonic, seismic shift that's coming, and that they will be totally powerless to stop. Now, I just want to pivot briefly here because we have an amazing update from what we talked about in our video last night. You're going to absolutely love this. It's about the Bucks County election official, the Democrat Diane Marseglia, who ordered the counting of illegal ballots in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Now, if you didn't see the video last night, the gist of it is that Democrat Bob Casey has refused to concede the race to Dave McCormick. Yes, Bob Casey is officially an election denier. And so there's a recount going on. But the Bucks County Election Board, particularly this lady, Diane Marseglia, insisted that the recount include ballots that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court had previously ruled were illegal. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled several weeks back that mail-in ballots that were missing mandatory signatures or that were misdated or undated and the like were not to be counted. They were invalidated by Pennsylvania law. But when it came up for a vote, this is what she had to say about it.
Reject all three categories of these ballots.
Your motion is to reject or dismiss the challenges in this category in front of you?
Correct, yep.
Not going to second that, mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
You heard her with your own ears. I mean, there's no gaslighting here. I didn't tell you what she said, right? You heard her own voice. You heard her own words explicitly saying court rulings don't matter anymore. People violate the law anytime they want. And so we're going to go ahead and count these illegal ballots. Well, of course, in our live stream last night, we reported just within minutes of the decision, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court dropped the gavel on this rabid woke leftist and ordered an immediate end to counting those very illegal ballots. Right? That election officials were to ignore the ruling coming from this radical leftist activist disguised as an election commissioner. And now to make it even sweeter, since we gave you that report, the Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro finally decided to come out of under his rock and speak out against these obvious shenanigans and completely threw that Bucks County election commissioner under the bus, saying that they were violating the rule of law and damaging public trust in our elections. What do you know? Surprise, surprise. So now you're going to love this. This ultra woke triggered lib that you just heard with your own ears. You ready for this? She is now saying that her comments were misinterpreted. I kid you not. I kid you not. That's the headline. I think that's from the Washington Examiner. Her comments were misinterpreted. Her comments that you clearly understood and that the people who count the votes clearly understood, since they were counting illegal votes based on what she said. Yeah, those comments she's saying now, she's saying that you are misinterpreting them. Isn't that so typical of a Democrat? It's you. You're the problem. It's misogyny. It's sexism. It's racism. It's always you. You're the one who, it's not what she said. It's how you interpreted it. Democrats always project onto others the very sins they themselves commit. She totally misread the room. She's the one who misinterpreted the times. She openly stated that she was not going to obey the law, and she thought that she was going to rouse all her fellow woke rabid libs to her cause. But it didn't happen. She's like, yeah, we're going to break the law. And then she looked around to see who was behind her. Nobody had her back. Even Josh Shapiro threw her under the bus. She's the one who misinterpreted the room. And so being a Democrat, what does she do? She projects. She projects onto you her own failure, the failure to interpret rightly. But again, I mean, it's not only that she lacks interpretive skills, right? It's that, again, the Bucks County voting, the people counting the votes in accordance with the order she handed down to them is proof that that's what she said. Is it not interesting that the very people counting the votes interpreted her words exactly the way we did? Now, like we talked about last night, this lady is obviously not the brightest bulb in the box, because, I mean, just even what she did right there is so patently self-refuting. When she said that court rulings don't matter anymore, that people can now break the law whenever they want, does she not then realize how utterly and completely self-defeating that is for her? If laws don't matter anymore, if laws are now freely ignored, then why would she expect anyone to obey what she and her Democrat ilk on that Bucks County election board decides? Why did she order a recount when the rest of us, including Dave McCormick, can just dismiss it and ignore it? If we can disobey the law whenever we want, why would we care whatever law she wants to impose on us? In openly defying the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, she invited anyone and everyone to openly defy her. I mean, I said this last night. This was the single most absurd, self-defeating claim I think I've ever heard a bureaucrat make, until she opened her mouth yet again today and claimed that her words were misunderstood, were misinterpreted by literally everyone, including those counting the votes. Now that the Republicans have the registration advantage in Bucks County, remember, we flipped Bucks County from blue to red. Now that Republicans have voter registration advantage, thank you, Scott Pressler, you guys in Bucks County better boot this lady out as fast as you possibly can. I would recommend you look into recalling her ASAP. Put in a good, solid Republican in that chair who will obey the law, since Republicans are the party of law and order. And this is a little personal. I used to live in Bucks County, so I have a little love there. So whether we're talking about the state of Pennsylvania or we're talking about the nation at large, MAGA forces are conquering literally everywhere. The dam broke on November 5th. The woke defenses collapsed. And now the MAGA faithful are storming the nation. The Trump dance is the new celebratory anthem that we're seeing all over the nation, indeed all over the world. And it's not even Thanksgiving yet. That's the seismic shift that the New York Times is warning their readers. They're telling them it's coming. They're wrong. It's already here.